All right, let's take a look at this Lorehold deck that I've been building. I'm going to tell you right now, it is not great. And the reason why is because when you get down to it, the college that I've really been able to draft the best out of has been Silver Quill. I was able to get the dragon from it, and also, of course, Killian, which Killian is a fantastic 2-drop. Lorehold with Quintorius, he's a 5-drop. So it's definitely a slower deck, and to be quite honest, I'm used to aggro decks. So some of these decks like this, they're just not really decks, first and foremost, that click with me. But secondly, I really am missing a lot of the cards you want in this deck. There is a mage. I do not remember off the top of my head her name, but she's like a dwarf mage. If I could have her in this deck would be 100% different. Let me look see if I can find her name real quick. Hoffrey. Hoffrey in this deck would be fantastic. Velamachus in this deck would be fantastic. I just don't have those. So this deck is definitely going to be limited compared to some of the other things I was talking about from Silver Quill. When I was talking about my Silver Quill deck, one of the things to kind of realize with it is I had options when I was building. I could do half a dozen different things. Here with Lorehold, I don't have that option. I just don't have as many options available to me because I have not drafted it as solidly. And to be honest, it's just not always been open to me in drafting. But here's what I do have. I've got Spirits, and of course I've got Quintorius, who helps to buff Spirits. And I've tried to focus as many Spirits into the deck as possible. And that's kind of been the low-key underwriting point of the deck. Of course, I've got Mila and Luca in here, which of course allows you to pull things out of your graveyard. I've got a couple learn abilities, which if you look in the sideboard, there's a lot of very traditional things you would see over here, very standard, like environmental sciences, spirit summoning, introduction to prophecy, expand anatomy, and introduction to annihilation. Spirit summoning is the one I usually go to whenever I go to the sideboard. And then, of course, I got Venerable Warsinger. I only have one. I've only got 2 of the Reconstruct History. I've got 1 Lorehold Command. I have 4 Quintoriuses. And, of course, I've got 24 total lands, one Snarl, and 4 of the Campus. Now, here's the thing. Quintorius, whenever one or more cards leave from your graveyard, you create a 3/2 red-white spirit creature token. So things like Reconstruct History will trigger that. The Venerable Warsinger can trigger that. These not so much. Luca, his ability can definitely trigger it. And of course, there's a handful of other things. For instance, you can use Lorehold Excavation. It costs 5 mana, but by the time you have Quintorius out, you've got 5 mana in play. You can pay 5 mana to exile a creature card from your graveyard to create a 3/2 red and white creature token. So that all kind of deals with these things. So you could actually use this to not only tag it, but also for its own ability and actually wind up with 2 3/2 red and white spirit tokens in play. Lorehold Apprentice, it's a great 2-drop. It allows spirit creatures you control to be able to deal 1 damage to each opponent. Not really been able to pop that off so much yet, or to be honest, their attack has been better anyways. Strict Proctor, which is a great card, but I only have 1. Now, Make Your Mark, I believe, is one of the most underrated cards in the current meta. And the reason why is simple. Turn 2 rolls around, and I drop this into play. The opponent goes, and they, for some odd reason, are not playing creatures. And next thing you know, within another turn or so, you have got Doomscar popping off. Well, you can play this onto your creatures, and whenever the Doomscar or Drown in the Lock or Murder or any other half a dozen different removal spells hit, you can actually create a 3/2 red spirit token just by having your other creature removed from in play. Very underrated common card. It's a 1-drop. You just keep 1 mana left open for it, and whenever one of your cards is targeted in such a way, you can get great value out of it. So anyways, we're going to jump into a little bit of gameplay, and I'm going to be very, very honest with you. When I first built this deck, I played, and I've been changing and tinkering this deck the whole time. I played 10, 20 matches. At one point, I was less than 10% win rate, so I am not going to bore you by watching a free-to-play deck get just savaged. I have finally gotten this deck to about where I like it for what I have. Once again, it's not a great deck, but it is a free-to-play deck. It is a fun deck, And I still feel when I go into most games that I do have a shot at winning. And a lot of the games, to be quite honest, one of the reasons why I took out a lot of the more expensive cards, in fact, let me show you what I mean by that. Radiant Scroll Wielder was in here. Blade Historian was in here. This Stonebound Mentor was in here. I took out a lot of these cards because the casting cost was so high. And you've got something like Lorehold Excavation. What are you wanting to trigger? Are you wanting to trigger Lorehold Excavation or get one of these other cards in play? And so you're kind of left in that weird situation where, you know, Blade Historian, maybe he's good value, but considering the rest of your board, he really isn't. And so you're looking at him thinking, do I go ahead and do that? Or do I get another creature in play this next turn? So I went ahead and took out the ones that were very, very high casting cost because they weren't working out anyways. Now, if I had a way of helping to accelerate, like for instance, environmental sciences, if I could more regularly hit my learn spells and just hit that, then that would be a possibility. Of course, Spell Salcha was a possibility. I just haven't really settled down exactly what I think would make this deck work more. I definitely know, though, if I had Velomachus, this deck would be way different. I also know if I had that dwarf, I cannot remember her name, this deck would also be very, very different. So this is just kind of an honest, quick rundown. I'm going to go ahead and we'll do some gameplay, and hopefully we can come up with one win. That way I'm not wasting your time kind of rattling through a deck that really, to be honest, is still under construction. So anyways, here's to good luck. All right. So this is that Lorehold deck. Trying to get a little bit of gameplay. It's not a great deck by any stretch of the imagination. So that's kind of an important thing to mention. I think as of making this particular video, I think I'm sitting roughly around a 20% win rate. And that's after having won the last few matches. This was below 10% for a while. So you've got to be below 10% to be able to... yeah. You've had to have at least played 10 games, and to be below 10% win rate, out of 10 games, you're talking maybe one win. Got rid of my Mila. Yeah, I'm not going to block that guy. All right. All attack. Ugh. I'm not going to block that either. All attack. I'm going to wait and see if he has some kind of spell. This Make Your Mark is great against creature removal because they hit you with some removal and you can drop that right onto your character. And yeah, they die, but it puts a 3/2 token right back into play. No blockers. The Spirit Summoning, and we will attack with all. What is his ability again? Ah, okay. It's because of her Magecraft. All attack. There we go. End the turn. Yeah, so he's got a little bit of an advantage. Yeah, so this is exactly what you can do. They're going to cast that spell onto that character, and that's fantastic. Because I'm going to gain out of it a 3/2 token. That's what's great about that spell. Alright, we've got... this into play. Only got just a little bit in here. And I will put the other Lorehold apprentice in play. I'll attack. And he's probably realized that he has made a mistake. Because now I was able to get her back with nothing, no casting cost, which is very nice. This card is amazing. Sad I only have one, and he finally realized he needed to nuke it. Alright, those are not spirits, but that is. And we will attack with all. And my dog and my cat are yelling at each other. Yep, on cue. All right, hey, we're climbing. We are climbing. How about that? So yeah, I mean, this deck, I'm not gonna lie to you, it's hard to play this deck, but you can get lucky with it from time to time. You can have a good time with this deck. It's just it's not the best. And of course, I've kind of touched on that, and we'll touch on that again in the wrap up. All right, so let's do the wrap up on this deck. It's not a bad deck. It's a fun deck. It's just, it's not optimized. And what I mean by that's real simple. I don't have the best cards available for Lorehold. I don't even have necessarily what you would even call some of the great cards for it. Definitely don't have the great. Definitely don't have the top tier cards. The flip side is, you know, I've got more spirits that I could throw in here. For instance, I could take out the apprentice and throw in the Stone Rise spirit. I've actually considered that. In fact, at one point I did have this in there, but it's one of those things where at the end of the day, I'm just kind of playing around different ideas, trying to make different things work. Now, is this deck great? Well, it depends on what you're talking about. The reality is, in Magic the Gathering, there's a simple truth, and this is a life truth. Even if something doesn't go as planned, you can still learn from it. That's what this deck is. Whenever this deck isn't working the best that you want it to do, or it doesn't have the cards in it to make it function the way you want it to, you can still learn from it. Even your worst days are teaching you lessons. You only lose if you're not listening to those lessons. So that's what this deck really is. It's teaching you how to play with cards that are really maybe not top tier, but you're looking for synergies. You're looking at one of your most powerful cards being Quintorius, and he buffs spirits. So next thing you know, you're looking through here and you're trying to find spirits like Strict Proctor, Stonebinder. You're looking at things like Make Your Mark that put a spirit into play. That's exactly what you begin to do. You know, this Venerable Warsinger, I wish I had more of them, but I don't. And it's just one of those situations where I'm making do with what I have. And that's the thing about building Magic the Gathering decks whenever you're free to play. You build it, you start with it. But what you start with is not the deck you're going to end with. This deck isn't done by any means. I'm going to keep drafting Strixhaven. I'm going to keep building up this collection. And I'm going to wind up eventually with a very solid Lorehold deck. I know it's going to happen. Well, I appreciate you all tuning in, and I hope you all have a great day.